Halloween.
Forever.
Howdy ho, you bunch of spooky ooky bastards. It's your boy Brian. 1/3 of the Halloween is Forever podcast crew. Just throwing a little intro at the top of this episode with a tiny bit of explanation. For those of you who are already listeners of the show, you know that we upload a new episode to all major podcast platforms on Mondays, every single Monday. However, this time around, we had a little bit of a snafu with, I think, a file size limit that we exceeded, because this is a big old meaty boy of an episode. But so we did not realize that was potentially the issue. So we found that it was going to be easier to break this one up into a two-parter, but it is going up a little tiny bit late. So do want to apologize for folks who are waiting for this episode, but thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Right as soon as you're done with this part of the episode, part one, you can jump right into the thrilling conclusion of part two, which should be uploaded right around the same damn time. So should not be too much of an inconvenience for you. So you know what? Don't make a fucking big deal about it. Why are you making me feel bad? Why are you making me feel guilty about this? It's honestly, it's rude. It's rude. This is your fault. That's what I'm going to stick to that. I have come here to chew bubblegum and watch John Carpenter movies. And guess what, guys? I'm all out of bubblegum. Welcome to the fucking October Showdown episode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve.
Guys, it's here. We've been waiting 12 months for it. It's the Halloween motherfucking showdown, guys.
I'm feeling so good about this, you know?
I have no idea what to expect. This is going to be a weird one, and I'll explain in a couple minutes why that was the case. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in. And we were just talking about this before we got on here. Couple of interesting things to call out. One, we're getting an absolute fucking shit ton of new listeners, like thousands a day, which is fantastic. And I'm very, 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 very thankful, and we all are very excited about that.
Do you know how many people are listening to this that also have podcasts, and they're just like, "Oh, is your podcast successful? Oh, so sad."
I know. Yeah, we are getting like thousands and thousands of listeners a week, which is tremendous. We're very, very excited about that, and it's not meant to rub it into other podcasts or anything like that. But because we're getting so many new listeners, it begs obviously for us to do a little explanation of who the fuck we are and why we're and what we're doing in this episode. So for those of you who have been listening for a while, our loyal Halloween is Forever listeners who have been here since the summer when we started off, thank you so much. And for those of you who are new, what we do every single month is we pick a topic, a subgenre, a something, and then we each pick a movie that we feel represents that topic, that subgenre, whatever it may be. Our listeners, our social media friends on the Instagrams and the Twitters and all that stuff, they help us pick what that topic is. First of all, they suggest the topics. We have a big running list that we choose from. We randomly generate 3, and then we put it out on social media and have our friends help us pick what we're going to talk about. This time around was a little bit different because we did do the topics, right? And John Carpenter films ran away with it. You guys helped us pick John Carpenter films. But then what we did is we put a whole mess of John Carpenter films on a roulette wheel on Steve's phone, and then we ended up with what I can only describe as 3 of his fucking worst films, which is going to be very, very fun because it would have been very, and obviously you're hoping for like Halloween, or The Thing, or Prince of Darkness, or They Live, or something like that. But then it comes down to like, we all have such deep admiration and affection for decades for those films that you already kind of have your mind made up a little bit. So this is me trying to put a positive spin on getting dealt an absolute shit hand by the roulette wheel. But the roulette gods doth frown upon us. And we got 3 of John Carpenter's lesser known and frankly lesser celebrated horror movies. But the beautiful thing about that is we're coming in with kind of a clean slate because we all either already didn't like these movies or had never seen them. And I'm a John Carpenter fan. I mean, you can see I have the John Carpenter movie posters and shit all over my office here. But my goodness, there was one of them I'd never seen before. And I think a couple of you...
I haven't seen any of them.
You hadn't seen any of the three. So these are all first-time watches for you.
Oh,
Steve and I had never seen The Ward. Without further ado, the movies, we talked about this on previous episodes, so obviously no spoilers here, but I drew the unabashed... I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here to say that what people point to as John Carpenter's worst film in most instances...
It drove him out of film.
Ghosts of Mars. So I drew Ghosts of Mars. So we put some whammies on the spin, right? On the roulette wheel. And turns out we hit those goddamn whammies. So I was Ghost of Mars. Steve had a film from 2010. So 2001 Ghosts of Mars, right? Steve got a film from 2010 this is the one that none of us had seen, which is called The Ward. And then Meg, you got from 1995. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. 95, 96. I think it's 95. It is Village of the Damned, which is the remake of the 1960 movie, which is a film adaptation of a book from several years before that. So some of these movies you may know very, very well. Some of you may not. And that's kind of where we're at. So going into this, if it was like The Thing and Halloween and Prince of Darkness or They Live or something like that, I think we would come in kind of knowing who was going to vote for what. Like, I'm a diehard fan of Halloween. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of know what right. I have no idea where this is going to land. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about that. So
it's good for two reasons. One, we don't know how today's going to do.
No.
Two,
we might all be dead. We might all die.
We're not going to die. But
okay. Good.
What
Thanks.
we can do is promise the audience that next year we'll have John Carpenter films again as a choice.
Yeah.
And if they pick it, we'll do the roulette wheel again, but we can do it with all good choices.
Yes. We will take the three worst choices. We'll be off the board.
Yeah. So it's a tease to get people to listen for a year.
You have to listen for 12 more months, and then we'll talk about The Thing. Some good John Carpenter. No, there's no way that we don't pick a subgenre between now and then where we talk about those movies as well. Right. So we shall see. Yeah. We shall see. In any case, I mentioned helping us vote on the social medias. Please do that. If you feel so inclined, give us a follow over at the Instagrams. It's at Halloween is Forever. We're also getting a lot of great traction over there, which is really fun. And we post tons of spooky stuff daily. And Meg is actually doing something really cool on there and on the TikToks. What's our TikTok again, Meg?
It's Halloween is Forever.
What TikTok is, so.
It's Halloween is Forever Pod. That's the only. Last episode we fucked up there, but Halloween is Forever Pod. Come follow us.
Halloween is Forever Pod on the TikToks. Again, I still do not fully know what the TikToks are. The app is on my phone. I'm scared to click on it. Meg is handling that over there, and she is doing a 31 days of classic horror, which we put together a list, and she's spearheading that and made a spooky little video to introduce it, and I've been keeping up with it.
It's really awesome.
And I had seen of the first one, there was the Satan at Play one. What was the first one that I had not seen?
It's like the Haunted Mansion one.
Oh, yeah. And then there was the one that was like the House of Satan. I don't think I had seen that one, the little short film.
Yeah, because there's X-Rays on day one. It was that, and then I think the Haunted Mansion, the one that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And then the Satan at Play.
Yeah. So we're starting from the first day of October all the way through Halloween, obviously, and we're starting in the silent film era with some films from like 1907, 1910, and it's going to go all the way up to, I think we're finishing in like the 60s, right? Early 60s-ish or something like that.
I
late
think
50s, early 60s.
Psycho's the last one, so.
Yeah, so that'll be super fun to revisit some of those, because many of them I've never ever watched before, and actually a handful of them I've never seen, so I'm excited for that.
It's nice because a lot of them are on YouTube.
I know, a lot of those ones I was like, oh, these are like French silent films. And then I look at it, it's like, oh, it's 6 minutes long and it's on YouTube. But it was really, really interesting to see. And I'm a sucker for anything in like really grainy black and white just makes things creepier to me. So
the first one on that list, which if I remember is that the like Haunted Mansion one, and that's a French one that was like listed as like the first like horror film ever recorded, and it was kind of cool to see like how they view horror in there. It's just like all this almost like magical, mystical type thing where, you know,
it's almost like a magic act. Satan doing a magic act is like what most of these are, which is cool. Yeah. It's doing the shit that when me and my friends made films when we were little, and we'd like hold up like a basketball and then cut the tape and then drop it and put your hand back in the same place. But like, it's gone. Like, that was film back then.
The flying bat. Pretty much. It's great.
But yeah, so we need to do this at some point. Maybe it's an after the holiday season thing or something. But so Meg was the thing that kind of started this off is she was like, I haven't seen a lot of these like super classic, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, you know, type of horror films. So we helped, you know, we kind of she put the list together. We were like throwing suggestions out there and stuff because it's just a blind spot for you. Some of that super old horror stuff, right? And you kind of explain that in the video. Check it out on the TikToks or on the Instagrams. Oh, and I should probably say at Hallow Forever on Twitter, Halloween is Forever Podcast on Facebook, or Halloween is Forever Pod on Gmail, especially if you got some of the new suggestions for episodes you want to throw us. But we were talking about this before we got on. My blind spot that is a Halloween horror adjacent thing is metal music. Like I've never been a huge. I was a skater punk kid. I was diehard with Misfits, Danzig, Minor Threat, Black Flag. Like that was my shit when I was in, you know, middle school and high school. But never really got into the metal scene, and I only know stuff that's like super like theatrical horror metal, you know, like I like Ghost, I like you know, I mean, would you call Alice Cooper? I mean, Alice Cooper's metal, kind of. I like, you know, I like all that stuff. But you guys are way more into that sort of thing. I like King Diamond, like anything where they're like, there's gonna be spooky shit happening on stage. Then I'm like, all right, I'm into this. It's kind of like
falsettos too.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on Gwar?
I like Gwar.
Okay.
I do tend to like the more like theatrical type of singing style. Like I love Bruce Dickinson. I love Maiden. So like I just mentioned King Diamond and Maiden, so that falsetto is definitely something that whatever reason I'm attracted to. And Gwar is the opposite of that.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I like Gwar, and I love the stage theatrics and stuff, but like I don't even know where to start. Like I'll look at I'll watch music videos or a live performance on YouTube, but like I don't know what to start with. So maybe that's something we gotta do at some time with like 31 Days of Metal, and you guys can tell us what I need to listen to on a given day.
I'm just gonna make you listen to Cannibal Corpse every single day.
Yeah, that was what we were talking about. The only other thing I have as far as like my look into like the metal scene is I like, you know, friends that were really into like Hatebreed, you know what I mean, in high school and stuff like that. It's kind of, we were talking about, it's a little bro-y-ish, I don't know. Or at least my mind it was.
Jeremy Jost is a posy dude, you know?
Yeah.
See, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what
he's positive.
I love Jamie Jost as a person, and I like his podcast alone is amazing, but every time I hear his music, I cringe a little bit because of like that hardcore style of singing where it's just like, let's be friends. And I'm like, you know, I can't handle
the messaging and the sound just don't always gel.
Well,
like the lyrics
really
aren't
like
great.
Idols.
Usually,
you know the band Idols?
Yeah, I'm going to see them next weekend.
Oh wow, that's incredible. That's where?
I'm going to Detroit, but I also am seeing them in Baltimore the following week. So, yeah.
So I love them, but they're great too, because it's like the theme doesn't match the tone of his voice at all. He's like, let's hog it out. And he's like screaming.
I like the way he does it with that like positive
Well, he's got the British, the accent always helps, right? The Cockney nature that I'm a sucker for it as well.
Yeah.
What's the name of the band?
Typo Negative.
Typo Negative. So I know that he's the guy who, like, he's a big giant guy who I think is fully convinced he's a vampire. Am I mistaken in knowing?
Yeah, he's like, and in like when it comes to like Halloween-ish time, the moment October hits, everyone's just talking about Typo Negative. Where I like talking about him as a vampire, and he's like super sexual and like all of his music,
like sad boy stuff a little bit too. There's a lot of sad boy tones in the music, and his last name is Steele. What's the guy's name again?
Peter
Steele. I had a friend in high school who I haven't talked to in a while. That I won't say his last name. His name's Scott, because if he would ever listen to this, he would know. He would have to fess up to this immediately. He is also really tall, dark, jet black hair, really tall, really big dude. Kind of looks a little bit like him in a weird way. But when we would be playing like GoldenEye when we were younger, and you'd have to put your name in, like what your name is going to be, or anything. We'd be playing any video game and we had to enter a name in, and we'd always put like, fart shit, some dumbass, like, just whatever, 13-year-old boy would put in there. He would always put Cold Steel. And we would make fun of him so fucking hard.
That's pretty great.
My guy's name would be like Turd Face, and then his would be Cold Steel.
Cold Steel.
So every time I think of that guy, I think of my friend Scott. So in any case, let's get into let's talk about beers. Anybody got beers? I know Meg in lieu of beers is enjoying a nice, what did you call it?
It's an apple cider mimosa.
Oh, I was thinking what you were eating.
Oh, my food.
Bowl.
Yeah, I'm eating a harvest bowl. I have destroyed my body all weekend, so I decided that I needed all the vegetables in the world today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a bowl of farts, basically, is what it sounds like.
My breath is going to smell very badly. Yeah.
But you were going full-on apple cider mimosa. I've got
top to bottom.
Yeah, I saw a picture of you yesterday with what appeared to be was a Bloody Mary of some sort or something like that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I went Michelada. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Michelada,
I did have a Bloody Mary. Then I switched over to Michelada. So,
Both.
All of the above.
Yeah, I like when you get the opportunity to switch drinks and switch gears and what type of booze you're consuming, and it's still brunch. I'm a big fan of that as well. I'm going with, again, we were talking about pumpkin beers, and tis that time of year. I'm an unabashed fan of the pumpkin beers. A lot of cool local ones around here, but you know what? I'm going with Sam Adams Jacko. I've just been crushing this one because it's 4.4%. I mean, what other pumpkin beer has that much character that you could just crush them at 4.4%? I don't know. I'm digging it though.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm drinking healthy.
Ooh.
You can't see
it
on the video. It's the Abjuration matcha tea milkshake. Ooh. So it's matcha. That's healthy. And it comes out very green.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to see that color? It's
pretty intense looking. Yeah.
Yeah. Very green, very spooky. But yeah, it's not like one of those sour slop type deals. Where they made some goofy green thing. It just tastes like Starbucks' green tea frappuccino, but beer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but beer form.
You know what? I'm we've talked about on the show, and for those of you who are new to the show, I am just a pumpkin spice slut. I love pumpkin spice candles, pumpkin spice anything, and I love like warming kind of mulling spices like year round. I love that kind of stuff: cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, and allspice, and all that stuff. I'm usually not a huge Starbucks pumpkin spice latte guy. It's just like a little sweet for me. But they've got this pumpkin spice cold brew thing happening right now.
That's what I fuck up
with.
Oh yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, do you get the cold foam on it? Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah, I get the cold foam.
Yeah.
What do I look like?
What,
goddamn amateur?
Dunkin' Donuts has like very similar thing where I live now, Dunkin's right there, so I have to go that route. But still,
yeah, I saw the commercial for the Dunkin' one. I'm gonna go try that.
I love my Dunky Doos. My order is iced coffee with do the pumpkin shot and then oat milk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I made the horrible mistake of, because I'm, like I said, this time of year, I'm putting the pumpkin spice cream. I'm usually a black coffee guy, but I put or espresso. I put the pumpkin spice creamer in all season, right? As soon as it hits the shelf, I'm going pumpkin spice creamer every day.
I feel like those are such conflicting things, dude. Like you're I go from black coffee to all the spice, and that's a shoulder shake one. All the spice.
It is literally. Just turn on a dime. Going from just black coffee all year round to September 1st, I'm going super sweet pumpkin spice everything. So it is definitely an about face. But I made the mistake. Speaking of oat milk, I made the mistake. I ordered groceries and they didn't have the pumpkin spice creamer, so they substituted almond milk, pumpkin spice almond milk,
Fuck yeah.
and it just turns into goddamn scrambled eggs in your fucking coffee. It just coagulates and just like, all the proteins just like coagulate into these ribbons. It looks like fucking egg drop soup in your, it looks like fucking cold break, you know what I mean? Like, or hot break in your kettle, you know, it just, it looks like freaking, it looks like trube that's just going to settle to the bottom of your fucking glass. So, I was mad about it. I flipped the table in my house and made a whole scene. But yeah, that's my shit. That's my shit.
That'll teach him.
Sons of bitches. You don't think that I'll cut off my nose to spite my face? I fucking will. And then I'll write you a letter about it. No, I won't. So, Steve, for those of you who are new, once again, we do this every month. We do the Showdown episode. And then our off episodes are what we call mini-sodes, which has become a joke of sorts because they're 2 fucking hours long. but
mini-sodes are still shorter than the Showdown, so that's how...
Yeah, the Showdown's 9 hours. Yeah. So we had... the mini-sode after... the main episode is always whoever wins gets to pick, a punishment if they want to, or they can be a benevolent champion, as we've discussed before. Is if you win, you can either inflict pain by making your fellow co-hosts watch something absolutely fucking dreadful, or you can, like I said, be a kind and gracious champ. We do have a championship belt, again, for those of you who are new. I'm looking at it right now, although Steve currently holds that belt. He is currently the champ. Last month in our modern slasher episode, Steve took home the belt. We have now all owned the belt at some point. Steve won last month. I won the 2 months before that. Meg won the first month. So I might add, I am still the winningest champion in the history of Halloween forever. But that could all change today.
It could.
Well, it will all change today because there's no fucking way I'm going to win this month because I drew Ghosts of Mars. So one of these two are going to bring it home, and I'm ultimately going to probably determine who that is. I don't know for sure. So one of them.
Brian, you look really great today.
Hey, thanks. I have accepted my fate. As soon as I drew Ghosts of Mars, I was like, your boy's not bouncing back this month, so maybe in November.
I mean, there was a possibility because none of us had seen the ward, so we didn't know.
True.
We didn't know how bad that got if it got bad.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So.
That's true. So long, wildly about way of saying that Steve gets to pick the order as the champ. Comes with all the benefits of the champ, and one of those is you get to pick the order for the next Showdown episode. So Steve will pick who goes first, second, and third in our John Carpenter Roulette Showdown.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I'm not going to belabor the point. We're going to go Brian, Meg, and then myself.
Okay, bring it up the rear.
Word.
Okay. Yeah, I dabbled with a couple of different strategies, going typically in the middle. But Steve's going to bring it up at the end, which I can appreciate that strategy.
I was going to make Meg go first just to make her mad, but I just think it's better to.
I was about to compliment you too, but I didn't want to draw any attention to myself.
Meg actually, you guys can't see her who aren't watching the feed here. Meg slinked down below the camera and just pretended she wasn't there. So Steve wouldn't pick her to go first. She hates going first.
Yeah, I was going to. Like, that was my original strategy before we even picked movies. Yeah. I was like, I'll just make Meg go first because it's funny.
Just to freak her out.
Just to freak her out. But I just think it's important that we just get Ghost of Mars out of the way.
Yeah.
You know what? And honestly, I'm kind of excited because, again, I'm not going to win. This movie is an absolute pile of fucking horse shit, but it's going to be fun to talk about, I think.
Yeah.
Because
I think
it's
so.
Silly bad.
It's so silly bad.
Yeah, it's really, really, truly the case. So for those of you who have not seen Ghosts of Mars, this was kind of touted in a lot of ways as like John Carpenter's kind of return to form in a lot of senses in 2001. This was a big project. It was a pretty high budget project. It had some high profile people attached to it. Doing a little bit of research on this, there's a lot of speculation, and this one, I have not seen this come right out of John Carpenter's mouth, but it does seem to be a generally accepted idea that this was originally pitched as a another sequel to Escape from New York. So Escape from L.A. unfortunately bombed, which... That's a silly, dumb movie, but like it's kind of fun. Like I like it. Escape from LA, okay. Escape from New York is very much of its time, and it's easier to kind of give it a little bit of leeway. And I love that movie, and I love Kurt Russell. So I will listen. I will swallow whatever bullshit Kurt Russell throws my way. I don't give a shit. I adore him, but Escape from LA bombed so hard. Okay, it's got a guy surfing in a post-apocalyptic LA city alongside someone driving in like a 50s Chevy convertible. Like I love that scene. But
if I don't know, I don't want to harp too much on Escape from LA, but it's like if the effects were better in that movie, I think it would be looked more favorably upon. But like that scene that you just described is one of the most egregiously like eye fucking things.
I know, because it's so silly. That's why I love it.
It's so silly,
so
but
dumb.
It's like if the effects were better for that silliness, then it would be more loved, I think.
Perhaps, and I think probably people are looking at it with rose-colored glasses a little bit now, and maybe it seems people are starting to do that with Ghosts of Mars, because I posted something about it on the Instagram, and I got a lot of very mixed responses, anywhere from I fucking love this movie, it's my favorite movie, to I want this movie to burn. Like it's all over the place, and that is normally the cycle. You know what I mean? Like 20 to 30 years later is when people all of a sudden are like, no, that wasn't bad. That was good. I'm like, Anyway, that is obviously a matter of opinion. But this was pitched as a Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell vehicle, and it was going to be Escape from Mars. Knowing that, it makes a lot more sense. Like this would make a lot more sense as a Snake Plissken type of silly action horror sci-fi escape movie. And we'll get into it. It doesn't land that way at all. But so it jumps off and it's, again, futuristic sci-fi it doesn't necessarily, it has a post-apocalyptic feel, but it doesn't take place on Earth. Of course, it takes place on these colonies, Earth colonies, human colonies on Mars in the year 2176, and they're in the process of like terraforming Mars. And I think they mentioned that they're 80% to the Earth's atmosphere, so it's livable. Right. And there are colonies of humans all over Mars. There's different like bases and villages and all that sort of thing, kind of spread all over the planet. And there is this kind of roving something, right? Almost a cloud of, if you will, kind of passing across and leaving all this destruction in its wake in these various villages and settlements and things like that all over the planet of Mars. Boy, that soundtrack is like listening to nails in your ear. That industrial, and I like intense. Carpenter's music. You know, it's obviously typically kind of a little bit more on the simplistic side. This is very like intensely industrial. 2001, almost
it set the tone for how serious they were taking
them. Type of thing.
Yeah, they were definitely setting the tone for how serious they were taking themselves in this movie too.
I honestly didn't hate it though. Like I might be the outlier when I say this, but I didn't hate it. And the soundtrack is John Carpenter's composition as performed by Anthrax, Steve Vai, and Buckethead. Yeah. But it comes out sounding like the soundtrack to the game Doom.
Okay. I could see that a little bit.
Which, I mean, fits because that was all about demons on Mars.
Why does it felt a little bit more, and these are not my genre. Like, I know who those people are. I know Buckethead is. I know who Anthrax is and stuff. But, like, this is not my genre. But it definitely had a bit of a weird nu metal vibe to me. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what got stuck in my head when I heard it.
It makes sense because of when that time period, too.
Right.
Exactly,
This is late 90s, early 2000s, right?
We were all wearing Janko jeans and, listening to Limp Bizkit and all that stuff,
Right. Yeah, we were down with the sickness, every single one of us. But it was he still put his name above the title, which I appreciate the balls to make this John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars still. He likes, this was around the era where he was doing name above the title shit though. Obviously it was John Carpenter's Vampires. It was John Carpenter's, now that's a very generic title, and John Carpenter's Village of the Damned, which we'll talk about, is a name above the title, but that's also a remake, so I can see why. But I can't imagine when they put this out they thought it was going to do great. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in assuming that, but you look at this, it's Kurtzman, it's Nicotero. These are like top flight effects people though. Like he had the crew there. Like this movie had so much potential.
On paper, it looks amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you put it out like now with how big Jason Statham is.
Yeah.
And
and Ice Cube, and these were. I mean, Ice Cube was already a name, obviously at the time. Jason Statham less so, but in any case, so the premise is, all of these unexplained deaths are happening on these settlements and towns all over Mars, and then you come to learn that there's some sort of microbiological, perhaps spiritual remnants of organisms or a society, perhaps even, that used to inhabit Mars, and were kind of awakened by the human terraforming of the planet. So they suggest that they're ghosts or souls even at some point of ancient Martians. But the one scientist kind of early on explains that they're actually these kind of microorganisms that are like airborne kind of thing. So, but we'll get to it in a minute when they kind of zoom in and give you this kind of first person view of like these, whatever it is, going in, jumping from body to body and taking people over. It very much has a spirit type of kind of feel to it. So I'm not entirely sure what they were going for there, but I like the idea that it's 2176 and people are still explaining not unnatural, speaking, they're explaining away natural phenomenon by saying ghost. It's literally almost the end of the 22nd century and people were still like, oh, airborne, germ theory is ghosts.
Right.
So like they're fucking cavemen. So I kind of dug that, but it's never really truly explained in any real way, to be honest with you.
No, it's that vague. Yeah, it's a microbiome, or it's some sort of microbe that is also the remnants of a consciousness of like a
so
former
it is spiritual
race.
In a sense, but
In a sense, yeah. But like, because you get scenes of like what they originally looked like, even though they're this red cloud now.
Yeah,
you get scenes of what they actually looked like, and it's like,
yeah, they were like big
CGI.
weird lizard people, fish lizards or something.
They look like if anybody's ever played the game Halo, the kind of Arbiter. They look like the Arbiter.
You're very That's a great way to describe them. That's exactly what they look like. It's like if Harryhausen made an Arbiter kind of thing or something. But it's very much it's weird because they are. I imagine the design, which you see them kind of almost barely any more than a silhouette in that kind of flashback-ish type of scene or whatever. But it is kind of like they look like reptilian fish people, maybe not. So I assume they're kind of alluding to this idea that because they are humanoid in nature, that is kind of they went through some similar evolutionary process as we did on Earth. But they got stuck up in Mad Max times a little bit. You know what I mean? So it just had so much potential. You know what I mean? It's just so. In any case, we jump into this mining train that's going across Mars through this kind of like forbidden area kind of thing, if you will, and you are introduced to this team of security officers that are hitching a ride on this train. And I'm not going to go by any means, we're not going to go scene by scene because this movie doesn't deserve it, but and boy, I have it scrolled down here a little bit further, but her name, so it's Natasha Henstridge's character, and I'm just going to refer to him as the as the actors,
yeah.
not the characters' names because they don't really matter at all. But
although Jason Statham's character of Jericho
is such a 2001 fucking name. My friend Scott, he probably put Jericho in the name of his character in 007. It was Cold Steel, Jericho, and Down with the Sickness or some shit. You pretty quickly, these are like hard-boiled security officer type of people who are on these like tours of duty on Mars, of course. And you quickly learn that she is using some sort of like short-acting psychotropic drug, recreationally, which may or may not come back later, ? I don't know. But it's tetramochloride. Tetramonochloride. That's it. I completely butchered the spelling.
I had to Google it because I was just like, "What is this?" I was like,
"Yeah." The autocorrect really did not do me a solid there. Tetramonochloride, and I was like, "There's no street name for it." I just wrote, "Oh no, not tetramonochloride." Is it not called like Schwank or something?
Right.
Is there not like a 2001 street name for this,
or even just Tetro?
Yeah, something, anything. But it's obviously causing her to do these like, kind of subdued hallucinations. It's something she's taking to like pass the time kind of thing. And you get to know there's so many great, late 90s, early 2000s people in this cast. So like I said, on paper, it looks great, right? She immediately starts seeing things that just could be like on the cover of a Pink Floyd album. Like it's so stereotypical, like 2001 idea of like tripping on whatever the psychotropic drug is. But then I was like, okay, whatever, this was, I have not seen this movie since it came out in 2001. So it'd been 20 years since I saw this movie. Didn't remember a lot about it besides the fact that I did not enjoy it. But all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Pam Grier. Okay. Like I'm starting to get on board a little bit now. You learn the name of Ice Cube's character, although you have not been introduced to him yet. His name really rolls off the tongue. James Desolation Williams. Which is the clunkiest fucking nickname in the world.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Desolation. You know what? A catchy nickname is usually less than 4 syllables, but, who am I? Who am I to judge?
That's what happens when you have to replace Snake Plissken in a hurry. Yes,
100%. It's almost like they got the red light on the Snake Plissken, sequel, the Escape from Mars sequel, and we're like, you got 3 weeks to turn this into a different movie. And we'll get deeper into that, but that feels like what this movie suffered from the most. The set pieces are pretty sick, to be honest with you, and if you insert in your brain Snake Plissken into some of these set pieces, you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know what I mean? It reminds you of the settlement. It's a Martian adobe hut kind of things. Version of like the shantytown kind of settlement in Escape from LA in a lot of ways.
Yeah. The whole film is pretty much like an Old West, like Wild West film.
There's the one main kind of road through town almost kind of thing.
Well, I mean, you have a train that goes between all the mining towns.
Sure.
Which was kind of cool in the beginning. Like, you don't see so many miniatures matched up against matte paintings. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the first things you see. I was like, oh, that's, an old style you don't see very often. But there's hot air balloons. There's even the trucks kind of look like carriages. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's all very small mining town kind of, and then the you could call like the security force that we're talking about, they're like the Pinkertons of way back in the day. They represent the government. They're going into a fucking small town to bring out this outlaw. Yeah. And it's outlaw transport movie.
Absolutely. It was meant to be a throwback to like an 80s space western. But no one told the performers, unfortunately.
No one got it.
Yeah, the concept is there on paper, and you see it. It's just no one told any of the actors that's what it was. So like I said, the set pieces are pretty sick. I really like the little science fiction details that Carpenter likes to throw into things, like the you get like headaches for several months when you do your first tour on Mars because of the different levels of, there's less oxygen in the atmosphere, and how time moves faster. I don't fully get that, but he was talking about how like a tour on Mars is twice as long on Earth or something. Did you catch that?
I caught it. He said like when you sign a contract for a year on Mars is 2 on Earth. Is 2 on Earth. I don't know if that's completely 1-to-1, but Mars and Earth both are on a 24-hour day-night cycle.
I thought that was the whole idea of why Mars is like the closest cousin to Earth,
Yeah.
But I like when he injects those little tiny kind of like, science nuggets, sci-fi nuggets in there, right? Jason Statham, I don't dislike Jason Statham, but in this movie, he was full on give me hemorrhoids. Like he was trying to be so badass. He was trying to be so like, I'm the domineering, kind of badass bro kind of guy. And he's just a shitbag character. He's bargain bin Bruce Willis. That's like what he's trying to go for.
He even has Die Hard like hair at that point.
Yeah.
Because he still has his hair, but it's very obviously receding.
Yeah. He just feels like a rip-off Bruce Willis. And he's
British Bruce Willis.
Yeah, he's what's the character? I posted about this a while ago. He's like Tommy Knife Fingers version of Bruce Willis.
Sharp-Hand Joe.
Tommy Knife Fingers. I was way off. Sharp-Hand Joe. Yeah, the Freddy Krueger ripoff. Tommy Knife Fingers. That's my personal one. I'm releasing at the end of the month, guys. Smash that like and subscribe button. Pre-orders for Tommy Knife Fingers are coming out any second.
Do you ever notice like how now, like I think even newer movies, he talks a lot less, but in this movie, he talked so much. And you're like, you need to stop.
He never shuts the fuck up.
I
oh my god.
Oh god.
Yeah.
And every scene is him trying to turn Natasha Henstridge, who he believes is a lesbian.
Yeah. And the inverse, Pam Grier's character, who is gay, is is like hitting on Natasha Henstridge's character. And so there's like this weird battle. It's very uncomfortable. So I was like, the hot air balloon thing, you could tell it was meant to be a big scene with like a Kurt Russell type of character, and they liked the idea enough that they kept it, but it was completely inconsequential.
Yeah. Either a Kurt Russell character or a Steve Buscemi character.
Oh yeah, I could have seen him from the Escape from LA. Yes, I could have seen him doing some weird shit like that.
Yeah.
I feel like notice at the end, but also in the scene with the hot air balloon, of like how much money they probably blew on just being able to blow it up, because that was like one of the most epic effect. It was insane. I also was questioning, I'm like, would it really be that epic of an explosion? But I didn't want to question it.
No.
Like I was like, this is just too much, too long.
Because the atmosphere has less oxygen, so would it be?
Yeah. Listen, I'm not a scientist, guys. I'm going to venture to say a hot air balloon wouldn't even work on Mars. That's just my instinct as an amateur scientist. But, it's funny because the thing that I love about John Carpenter is, especially in his less pure horror themed and more kind of action adventure-y type of sci-fi stuff, he has like this very I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean it very much in a positive way. He has this like childish wonder kind of thing where he wants to put the shit 10-year-old you would want to see in a movie. He wants that in the movie, So like when you see stuff like that, you're just like, you just see the remnants of it really could have been something super, super fun, a la, an Escape from New York or any of those movies that kind of fall in that vein from him. But yeah, I don't know. Well, it's just kind of surprised that they couldn't pull that off in a more meaningful way. You know what I mean? It really felt like there was a time crunch involved, but I don't know. But I am kind of surprised because one of the things people say a lot about this movie is they shit all over the dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. It's a lot of it's not good, but watch Escape from New York. It's fucking terrible. The dialogue is so unbelievable, but it's Kurt Russell saying it, so everybody's like, "Oh yeah, all right," you know what I mean? Or like, I mean, the thing I was joking about at the top of the episode, like Roddy Piper walking into the bank and doing the chew bubblegum and kick ass line. It's delivered in the most awkward, silly way, and it comes out of nowhere. It doesn't call back to anything.
No, he just invented that on the spot.
Bubblegum at any other point in They Live, but it's iconic because it's so fucking bold and silly.
The scene you don't see is Roddy Piper walking down the sidewalk. You're like, oh, what am I going to say when I get in the bank? Chew bubblegum. I'm going to kick some ass, I guess.
He's giving himself a pep talk. He's going,
right.
All right, Roddy, what do you do best? Kick ass, of course. All right, now what else do you really like to do? Well, I do kind of like, I have bubblegum in my pocket. Like,
not even that. He saw a kid chewing bubblegum. And he's like, what else do I like to do?
He's just doing word association. He's like Brick from Anchorman going down the street.
Bubblegum.
Okay, lamp. There's a lamp. Do I break a lamp? Do I threaten to break a lamp? Yeah, it's like these lines, they're so silly, but then they become iconic because of just the insane boldness of putting something that crazy into a movie. There's a bunch of stuff like that in this movie. It's just that like none of it really, for whatever reason, didn't catch the zeitgeist in the same way in 2001. And it feels like, I'll get into this a little bit more, but it does feel like it is symptomatic of the time in late 90s, early 2000s. Just for whatever reason, the pop culture mythos of that time was to take yourself super seriously. You know what I mean? Like that was just kind of in pop culture, being extremely, almost overtly earnest with every single thing you do, to a point where like you're very cynical about anything that isn't dead fucking serious. I think just made this stuff not land, and also influenced the performances in a way that didn't allow it to really land. Whereas like back in the 80s and certainly in movies now, because everything of course is ebbs and flows like that, right? Where I think people have the latitude to be a little silly and not take themselves super seriously and still make it fun and cool. Whereas then it was like, if you weren't dead fucking serious, it wasn't cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and just to that, like, you think 2001, that means we're 2 years removed from The Matrix.
Yeah.
And everybody on this film is probably trying to do The Matrix.
That's a great point. Didn't even think about that.
All the actors are probably trying to do The Matrix, because, like, Natasha Henstridge, she honestly didn't work that much after this film.
Yeah. And
Ice
she
Cube.
probably auditioned for The Matrix too.
Yeah.
Like probably a lot of the people in this movie did, but
yeah. Like Ice Cube, he's relatively new to film at this point because he's done Anacondas or Anaconda. But like, you know, he's still relatively new to film. He hasn't had his big "Are we there yet?" or whatever fucking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you had like Friday and stuff, but those are comedies, right?
And Jason Statham is obviously still trying to get his foothold, you know, in everything. So like they're all trying to give their best Matrix performance when that's not what John Carpenter movies call for. No,
and even especially this one, where I think this was only 20 years later, and maybe it would have worked better 30 years later. But this was absolutely his callback to 80s action sci-fi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do like that in the 22nd century, infantry weapons are still fucking enormous. Like they're still gods, you know, they're still not God of War. What's the other video game franchise with the guys that have no necks and giant guns? Gears of War.
Gears of War. Okay.
Yeah, with the big giant guns. They're carrying the Gears of War infantry weapons. Like they not only have they not gotten smaller, like the noisy cricket has not been invented. It is they're fucking giant now,
Right.
even more so than modern weapons. But
Well, you see, Brian, they have to be giant because the gas has to expand to accommodate for the Mars atmosphere.
That's right. And time is slower on Mars. And
Right.
yes, of course. No more explanations required. So you kind of alluded to this. Ice Cube's kind of new at this point. This is not him at his best. He's trying really hard to be that super serious, tortured type of, anti-hero, but also kind of a heartthrob. Like he's definitely leaning into the sex appeal of the character a little bit. But there's really some laughable lines and scenes from him. And also, what's up with those fucking pants? That looks like some Hardy Boy shit that you're wearing. Like,
or my Zubaz the Mars.
Yeah, like you literally look like it's a cross between Zubaz and something like one of the Hardy Boys would wear.
Definitely.
But you learn that the spirit of these microorganisms, jump from body to body when the host dies specifically. So it's like immediate. As soon as the host who is infected and is immediately like the thing that kind of delivers the kind of shock factor thing is they like immediately go into this like self-mutilation mode where they start like ripping at their skin, or they grab the first like sharp thing and start piercing their face with it and all this sort of stuff.
I just want to add a comment. As soon as they die,
that jumps to another person.
That aspect alone, I feel like gives me the most anxiety, because I feel like that concept today probably could be done very epically. Because it's a pretty scary concept. Like, oh, it's just never going to die and never going to go away, and there's no way you can get rid of this thing. Like, that concept. That's scary.
I mean, everyone... Friday... which Friday movie was that? 9? That they did that?
Jason Goes to Hell, where the worm fucking takes people over.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar concept. And, like, there's definitely some... The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness kind of vibes popping out here. But in those movies, you care about the characters. But that's like it's definitely got some similar themes to some of his other movies.
Strangely, it also feels like there's a game that feels almost half inspired by this called Dead Space.
Oh, yeah. I played the first one because there were multiple games in the series, right?
Yeah. There's multiple games, and there's actually 2 pretty good like animated horror movies if people want to check out.
Dead Space was a fucking scary game. I remember.
Yeah. The whole like kind of premise behind it though is like there's this weird monolith that was dug up by a mining town, and like these monoliths like infect people and turn them into these self-mutilated monsters that like, you can chop their limbs off and whatever, they don't feel pain. So it's just weird. Like, I wonder if it was half inspired by Ghosts of Mars.
Oh, God.
Now I want to go back and replay it through that lens. Yeah, because I remember it was very much a survival horror, but incredibly tense survival horror game.
Yeah.
And the sound was super effective. I remember that was a great game. Yeah, I would not be surprised if you were right.
Watch the animated movies for more of the lore, because it comes off very similar. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah.
I'll have to do that. I know there were multiple games after that, but I only played the first one. So the distorted first person of the spirit thing, jumping from body and body, gets pretty old pretty quick. Like they could have done that once or twice, and they do it like feels like a dozen times. I do need to call out the severed hand bra. That's fucking sick. The one because the people of this mining town, they're all miners that were working in what did they say? I don't remember if they called out what mineral they were mining or what metal they were mining.
I don't.
But this is a mining town on Mars. All of the miners and a number of the security people and everything get taken over, and they all kind of jump into this kind of like, they just pass out, and when they wake up. Some of them, just now kind of making the connection with Village of the Damned. They all pass out and wake up, and many of them are affected, not all of them. And the ones who are affected immediately start self-mutilating and killing the people who aren't affected. And they morph into this Mad Max type of environment where they all like take up arms against anyone else and create this almost like primitive tribal culture kind of thing. But one of the characters, she has clearly cut someone's hands off and turned it into like a bikini top, which I thought was sick. Yeah. One of the guys who is in I believe he was a miner. He was that group of miners that were up on the hill kind of thing and got saved. Or no. They were the ones who were, they were the criminals, I'm sorry, who were with Ice Cube and his two kind of cronies. One of them is one of the Joker brothers from Next Friday. If you ever seen Next Friday with Mike Epps, it's genuinely a fucking really funny movie. Mike Epps, I just love Mike Epps, but they have their neighbors, they call them the Joker brothers. There's these this kind of Mexican gangsters that live next door to them and they're scared of. And the one guy who is like huffing the drugs and we'll talk about later, cuts his own thumb off. He is one of the Joker brothers from Next Friday. It's the only other movie I've ever seen him in. But I was like, oh shit, because we used to watch Next Friday religiously when my brother and I were little. I don't know why.
It's a funny movie. I mean,
we wore the VHS out. I mean, we literally still quote Mike Epps lines from that to this day. There's a scene in the jail cell where Natasha, I keep want to say Natasha Hargitay, but that's not where I'm getting two actresses mixed up. It's Natasha Henstridge when she is got them trapped in the jail cell. And they have guns and they're going to shoot her. But then she's like, no, I'm going to, you're never going to get out if you shoot me kind of thing. That is honestly one of the stupidest fucking scenes in film history. Yes. You need to give me your word. You know what I mean? Like she's gonna let him out as long as like this criminal murderer is like his word means anything. Yeah. And then his response is, I never give my word. I can't even get that. Kate and I were like belly laughing at, I never give my word. Like, what do you fucking mean? Just say yes and then let him out and then kill him. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? You're trying to escape. Why is this like these? It's almost this like old English knight type of mentality of like honor code. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It was such an incredibly stupid scene. There is also a line when one of them threatens to cut someone's fucking titties off, which I did appreciate that, and I wrote that down. I do not remember any other context besides that, but I did write it down. But let's jump right to that thumb cutting off scene because I already mentioned it. So there is a scene where they have procured some sort of I mean, it's the equivalent of weed. Like he's acting like he's stoned, right? Like he smoked weed, right? And he keeps inhaling this like inhaler that's getting him high. This is the one of the kind of criminal cronies of Ice Cube's character. And somebody's trying to get a can open. And he's like, hey, baby, let me open that can for you. He gets this big machete type tool that he has. And off camera, puts it down the table, cuts the top off of it, and hands her the can. And he has cut his thumb off completely. Yeah. And Ice Cube is like, oh, that's fucking sick, bro. Like, stupid scene.
That is my favorite scene in the whole movie, though.
I can't believe it was in there. I completely forgot about it. It got me completely as a surprise. I did not remember it at all. It's so fucking dumb, and I can't believe I didn't remember it. But
it's so dumb, but it's so hilarious. And it's like, I don't know, it's one of the few kind of like points of levity that actually work.
Yeah, but and it's still one of the so bizarre. It doesn't connect to the story at all. It's so out of tone of the whole rest of the movie.
No, it doesn't connect to the rest of the movie, but I feel like it connects to like John Carpenter in general. That feels very John Carpenter.
Yes, it was for a quick second there. I was having fun again. I really enjoyed it. If they would have done more shit like that and just made things go wild and threw jokes and like levity and stuff like that in there, I would have been all over it. But instead, it just is like a weird, quirky thing that sticks out in a sea of over, self-important, over dramatic bullshit. But fast forward, they're going to escape. They have teamed up with the criminals and the security force. They go outside. They're trying to make a run for it. They're shooting, all the tribal people who have kind of been taken over by the microorganism, the Martian entity. they are kind of standing up on these hills on either side of the main kind of throughway of the town, and Ice Cube decides he's going to go rogue and just runs down there doing, guns akimbo, blasting up onto the hills, and there's a bunch of carnage, people getting shot and stuff. It's kind of a fun, crazy, unrealistic action scene. But the zombies, I'm going to calling them zombies, they're not zombies, they're like whatever they are, right? The kind of tribal Martian people who've taken over the miners start throwing shit like earlier in the movie. Now all of a sudden they're all running down off the hill, just getting blasted, right? They're just running down the hill into a hail of bullets. And I'm like, you guys were all throwing some shit a minute ago. Why aren't you throwing shit now? And then later they come back and start throwing shit.
They're throwing shit again.
Yeah, they have these like really effective projectiles, which we'll talk about here in a minute, because maybe my favorite scene in the movie comes on the heels of that here shortly. But I guess that was my question, is like, why doesn't the organism go into every remaining human during this scene? Like, what? There are obviously enough of them to take over this whole town. Is it just that there was exactly enough of them to take over all the miners, and now the only way they can get into more people is when somebody dies in their proximity? But like, they're mowing down tons of the tribal people. Why don't they just all immediately jump into the bodies of Ice Cube and gang at this point?
I had that question too. I was like,
just like the glaring plot hole.
Because bad filmmaking, that's why.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. So,
or they were running, so they couldn't be chased.
Yeah. At this point, and I haven't even mentioned this, and if you know the movie, you might have forgot this as well. This entire movie is Natasha Henstrich's character telling this story to a
to a magistrate.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I was going to say it almost felt like all the procedural governmental stuff in Phantom Menace. They're just like talking to this magistrate and this military tribunal, if you will, kind of thing. Yeah. And in this moment, I had completely forgotten that was the case, and they zoom back to her telling the story, and I'm like, this is Joe Dirt. This is just Joe Dirt telling the story of his escapades on the radio show to Dennis Miller.
What makes that even more relevant here is at the end when she's done telling the story, they're like, "Well, okay, aliens, ghosts," and it's they blow it off like it's literally nothing. You're like, it's
If I would have watched this, and if this movie happened literally just 5-6 years earlier, I think it would have been a lot of fun. Like if this happened in 94, 95, I think this would have been a blast, but it just doesn't land at all. But so
I think if it happened today, it would also be better.
Yeah, absolutely. People wouldn't take it as seriously.
Right.
It wouldn't be so many people feel like their careers are on the line. Maybe I don't know, but this is this kind of brought me back at this point too, is we've now learned this in 2 consecutive episodes from Midnight Mass and from this: never enter a recently unearthed ancient structure. Nothing good's gonna happen. Nothing good's gonna happen there. So they go down and do that, and at some point, and I'm the timelines are kind of all messed up here. So I'm jumping around, but the movie doesn't deserve any better than that. But there are lots of, I wrote down, there's lots of leather, there's lots of questionable fashion for the setting. But Ice Cube's pants, this is when I noticed them, and they are they're a cross between something John Daly would wear after 45 Mick Ultras on the golf course and something the Hardy Boys would wear. It's right in the middle of those two. It's
after the third hole?
Yeah. Yeah. So before he tees off. Yeah. So question now. She eventually makes out with Jason Statham, Natasha Henstrich's character. Why now? Why does that happen?
I almost thought
she fucking hated him the whole time.
Right.
I legit thought that scene was going to be somehow she's then kicks him in the balls, just to get him to fucking stop.
That's what I thought too. I thought it was going to be lure him in and then make a fool out of him.
And then they get distracted and they have to run away, and you're like, you are literally telling him how much you don't like him, and you're like fighting off getting hit on the entire movie, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, Jason, let's fucking make out.
Yeah,
Like,
real quick though. Yeah.
She even hit him with like the sickest burn too.
Yeah.
Because he says, you want to get it on or whatever, and she says, I wouldn't do it with you if you're the last guy on Earth, but we're on Mars.
Right.
It's like, how fucking sick was that burn?
That was good. That was good.
It didn't make any sense. It was
No,
terrible.
it's so fucking dumb. Here's a part which I'm also another part I was confused about. People are getting taken over by the Martian entity microbes, right? Natasha Henstridge's character finally gets taken over, but she fights it off. But you get a glimpse. This is where you get a glimpse of the weird lizard fish people and shit. Because she gets like a quick insight as they're getting into her system. They're like taking over her brain. She gets a quick insight into like the history of their civilization or something like that. She gets Matrix downloaded, their history, and she fights it off. Are we meant to believe she does this through just like sheer will, or was it because it would have made sense? It was the drugs. So is it the drugs?
Yeah, it's the drugs because they put her. She gets taken over. They throw her body out of the building that they're hiding in, and then Jason Statham throws her drugs down her throat. So she
I missed it. Missed the drug. I missed that. Then I was thinking it was because the drugs earlier.
No. It's because Ice Cube found where her like little pendant that she has.
Yeah,
but that's where she keeps her stash. Yeah. And Jason Statham. I keep saying Jason.
Jason Statham.
My name's Jason Statham. But Jason Statham sees the pendant and he goes, "Oh, that's where her stash is." And then for whatever reason, he just decides give her drugs.
Yeah. Oh,
make her not think about getting takeover. Maybe that was the thought. Because at the same time, that's just a stupid setup. Otherwise, unless he's literally thinking like, oh, I don't want her to feel pain right now, so take the drugs.
Yeah, maybe. He has no science degree at all or anything. He's just like, just throw drugs down her throat, see what happens. Yeah, go for it.
He is not a scientist.
No, Jason.
Not unlike us.
Jason Statham will never be confused with a scientist. I mean, I'm pretty sure that is fair.
I don't think there's ever been a scientist named Jericho.
Listen, Professor Jericho, you didn't have him in college? No? Okay.
Dr. Timothy Jericho? You never heard?
Unless Jericho on WWE played a scientist, he very well could have at some point or another.
he I don't know if he'd pull it off.
He always has a clipboard now and making the list, Maybe it could be a scientist clipboard.
That's honestly 50% of the battle becoming a scientist, just having a clipboard.
Right.
Yeah. The coat is the other 50%.
Get the coat, get the clipboard, get respect.
Yeah. First you get the coat.
That'd be a great Halloween costume. Just put scientist on it right there. That's it.
Chris Jericho as a scientist? Yeah, sure. Do that.
I like this scene as well. This is when shit's like really hitting the fan and people are dropping like flies. But I do like when they finally get into the so I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, but when they finally get into the train and start to like pull away from the station, and all of the Martian warriors are just politely standing on the track, smacking the side of the, like, not crawling on the train, not jumping on the train, not trying to break the door down, just all politely banging their metal weapons on the side of the train. Knock. Guys, we're out here. Don't leave without us. The only one that really is like the head alien, the head Martian, who was a cool design, honestly. I thought he was kind of cool looking. I mean, he didn't need to look.
I thought he was a little bit dramatic. He just was
like
always yelling, and I was like,
it's a cool design, but his voice stinks.
Yeah, it was like, blah, 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 blah. Like, he just sounded.
He sounds like silly. Timmy from South Park.
He did a little bit.
It was so distracting. It's such a easy fix.
Yeah.
To just go into ADR and say, you know what, that doesn't sound intimidating at all.
Yeah.
Let's put monster noises instead.
Or make up a weird, Martian gibberish thing for him to yell.
I think that's what they were trying to do, but that
I know, but it just didn't land. It was silly. It was very silly.
You know what's now in my head, and I don't know how I'm going to get rid of it, is watching Ghosts of Mars in my head, but with only South Park characters.
Yeah.
Like
they should do a Ghosts of Mars episode. I mean, I feel like maybe, Strike While the Iron's Hot, right? It's only 20 years later. But they
just signed a huge deal and they have to make a bunch of movies. So yeah, make one of them a Ghosts of Mars remake.
Well, and at this point, they've made their cash, so they can do whatever they want. And they seem like the kind of guys who would just say, "Fuck you, we're going to do what we want." So
right.
I'm going to really strongly suggest if we can put anything out into the universe, I would like a South Park take on Ghosts of Mars. So this is what I was talking about with the projectiles. At this point, you really start to get a close look at the Martians' ability to throw deadly frisbees, which I am fucking here for. And my favorite scene, aside from the thumb getting cut off, is Clea Duvall's character, which she is one of the most late 90s, early 2000s performers I can think of. She was in so much stuff around that time. She gets her head cut off with one, and she does this duck, shoot, and then one time she just doesn't duck and her head gets cut off with one of these razor frisbees. It was fucking hilarious. I don't know why, just the way it was it's coming in threes. Why did you only duck twice?
Right.
I don't know why. It's just it really killed.
They keep coming.
Yeah.
I love that effect too, because it was so much part practical, but also still kind of CGI to keep Clea Duvall's real head on screen.
Sure.
And it very much, a lot of the CGI effects are very similar to Cradle of Fear.
I can see that. I can see that.
They're you can pick them out super easy now. It's not seamless anymore because of how good effects have gotten, but it's just
yeah, not good. I do love that one of the key things that the Martian organism downloaded into people's brain and physiology is the ability to be deadly accurate with a frisbee. I like that conceit.
6 skill.
Yeah, I like that. So that got me thinking, were these Martian organisms what is their connection to fish, the band? Do they have sick hacky sack skills too? Because if they would have started kicking grenades at people, hacky sacking and kicking grenades at people, I would have been on board for it. But they're deadly accurate with the frisbee. I like that you could see them kind of make that ultra violent, they could have made they made them ultra violent. They could have made them faster or stronger or whatever, but no, they just made them sick with frisbees. I don't know. I just appreciated that. My other favorite thing, which again got a laugh out loud for me, they're escaping in the train. The head Martian killer guy with the wacky voice is on another train car. They eventually blow it up with a small nucleothermal device, this little nuclear bomb essentially. And as they're driving away from it, it goes off and they zoom out into space and you can see the explosion from space, but not from the front window of the train.
Right.
It all stayed behind the train, but you could see it from space.
Well, they said it was only going to have a blast radius of 1 to 2 miles.
They were 150 yards away.
Right.
Did not see it out the front of the train.
I think I did the math on this because because here's the other thing I don't like about that scene is that they're fighting the zombie ghosts that have gotten onto the train. But the whole point of blowing it up is to make sure they nuke all of them. So in order for that zombie ghost that Natasha Henstridge kicks one off seconds before the blast goes off.
Right.
So in order for that to stay within the blast range, the train had to be moving at 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
like the whole time. It's just like, because you have to stay within the 1 to 2 mile radius, but you can't go too fast, but you can't get away from it. It's just like, this is sucks.
Yeah, you didn't have to make it that giant explosion. I don't know. It was just a really poorly thought out scene.
Right. Or you didn't have to put the zombie ghosts, like at least all of them. Like, because Ice Cube disconnects half the train, which leaves the leader.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is the leader isn't the last one to die, which is kind of usual progression in films. But like, he could have had him be the last one to die, and then because he disconnected the train, it stops well within that, space. But then they also have to gun the train to get out of the blast radius.
Yeah.
You don't. You didn't need the last one there.
Yeah.
And I'll get into it if I don't know how much more you want to go on, Brian.
I have a couple of other final things about this horrible ending. That's about it.
Yeah.
But it's like, the last basically 2 minutes, when like Ice Cube comes in and like wakes her, like basically saves Natasha Henstridge's character from They come back to modern times, right, or the present day, and not modern times. It's 2176,
2021 Mars.
But they come back to the contemporary, beginning of the story timeline, and things have started to hit the fan now. These Martian, microorganisms, whatever they are now taking over the base that she has now been saved and is in, because she was found as the last survivor of that train. Ice Cube got away. He has now come back for her to save her. And now they have somehow formed some incredible bond that they did not earn at all in the movie. That was never built to a point of like, why do they have this incredible bond? In fact, I would go as far as to say Ice Cube and Natasha Henstridge's character have some of the worst chemistry of any two people on screen of all time. But now they are a alien fighting duo till they die. And this last 2 minutes is like this shameless attempt of being a Snake Plissken level kind of cheese to it. And it would have made sense if it was that, but they played it way too straight. But we talked about, before we start recording, the last scene, which is literally Ice Cube breaks the fourth wall and mugs and winks to the camera as the credits roll, is unfucking forgivable. It's such a horrible ending. It's
terrible.
It's so not bad. It's not the worst ending of any movie of all time, but it might leave the worst taste in your mouth of any movie ending of all time. And it was like, there were moments in this movie where I was like, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. If I view it through the lens of like an 80s sci-fi cheese fest, okay, whatever, just with 2001 nu metal soundtrack. But that last scene is just, you can't leave this movie happy after you see that closing scene. It's just so fucking awful.
And you know what else it reminded me of? It reminded me of the ending of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, I don't even remember it.
If you barely remember it, it's they obviously get back to New York, the Mario and Luigi Mario.
Yeah.
And
I love that that's where that came from.
Yeah.
Because I told my kids that, because we love like Luigi's Mansion and stuff. And I told them, it came up on a trivia thing we were doing. What is Mario's last name? Mario and Luigi's last name?
Yeah. And
they were like, oh, they don't have a last name. I was like, no, they have a last name. It's Mario and Luigi Mario. And Kate, my wife, argued. She was like, you're full of shit. She thought for sure I was making it up. I was like, I'm telling you.
This is all new information for me right now.
Yeah.
You're witnessing me learning things.
That's it looks like Meg also has to go watch the Mario Brothers movie. But the end of that movie is Princess Peach kicks down their door. She has a giant gun in her hand.
Oh my God, I forgot.
And she goes, "You'll never guess what's going on." And that's exactly what Ice Cube does. He kicks open Natasha Henstridge's door, has a gun for her, has a gun for himself. He's like, "Looks like we're back at it again." It's like,
that classic team of Ice Cube and Natasha. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
But like, that is the thing that is the most egregious part. Even almost as bad as the wink and the mug to the camera is when he goes like, says something about, looks like we're gonna have to kick some alien ass, and she's like, that's what we do best. And I'm like, why are you guys the fucking dynamic duo now? Like, you haven't earned this relationship. This didn't happen in the script. You know what I mean? And also, why are their guns chrome? Why are they so shiny chrome? I don't know.
But also,
such
like,
a bad ending.
They're super ineffective too, because it's still going on.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job. It's
Right.
not like you wiped them off the planet.
Yeah.
And also, everyone else died but you guys. Like, you did a bad job.
Yeah. You're not
You
ass
did
kickers.
a bad job.
You
This
just
is probably
survive.
Yeah, you barely survived by the skin of your fucking teeth. This is just like, this script probably reads as something really fun. You know, it's probably reads as this like sci-fi horror schlock fest that sounds really fun. Like I said, just no one told the performers.
Right.
And maybe that is a shortcoming of John Carpenter's directing. I don't know. But they weren't in the same movie that he wrote
Right.
or laid out, you know?
Yeah.
So it was just, I think honestly, it'll probably age fairly well. I could see this being like kind of a cult classic in 10, 20 years from now. Not age well and make it a better movie. I mean, in the way it's received. You know what I mean?
I don't think so. It's
Yeah.
too fucking boring.
I
Yeah,
was curious, what in your mind like makes it seemingly going that way? Just because it's so bad? Because I could see that.
Yes,
like
it'll be so bad it's good. It will start to get that so bad it's good kind of mentality where like now we're just getting to the point now where we're far enough away from it that people are saying they like it. In 10 years from now, I could see people going, "Oh, it's fucking great." Because it's the same thing with I remember when I was a kid and I was, 12 years old and I loved Halloween. People used to talk the same way about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. They used to say like it's the fucking worst movie of all time. Like it's horrifyingly bad. And then like 10 years ago, people started going, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And now fast forward 10 years and it's like one of the most popular horror movies in existence now.
Yeah.
Like it feels that way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're totally right about that, but I think a lot of that hate came from the fact that it didn't have Michael Myers in it. Yeah,
For sure. That was a big thing, right? Yeah.
So I think people just
people
weren't
thought
able
the bait and switch was
Right.
part, yeah.
Yeah, so but that movie still has like a lot of legitimate fun to it and is like a good movie.
Yeah.
This one it's too fucking boring. It's too like there's not enough of those thumb cutting scenes.
Yeah.
And you have to wade through so much shit to get to the thumb cutting scene and like the saw blade stuff. And yeah, it just
It just doesn't have enough in it, maybe.
Yeah.
And the plot doesn't make sense, obviously. It's fucking really truly doesn't.
Yeah. The plot is silly. It doesn't make sense. And I think the thing I pulled from this that is actually the worst is the editing. And you're talking about like John Carpenter's directing as far as like, maybe he just wasn't able to get it across. I think something happened and he was just like tapped out.
He might have.
didn't-
He might have just said, guys, this isn't. Yeah. He seems like the kind of guy who would just say, like, this isn't what I want. And so I don't want to be responsible and walk away from it. But he's obviously under contract and his name's above the title. But
Yeah, I think he tapped out before they even started filming because he wasn't able to get what he wanted, which was probably Escape from Mars. But like he just let all of this like terrible shit go, especially in the editing.
Yeah.
And I did more looking into it because the editing is so bad for me.
Yeah.
Because we already mentioned how the way the story is structured, she's telling this story to a tribunal, and they keep cutting back to it. And there's nothing that puts the brakes on action more than cutting back to something that isn't action. Just sitting in a room telling a story.
I feel like they wanted that to be more tense.
Yeah.
But no one was tense except for Natasha Henstridge.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And just in general storytelling, you don't need to do that. Like set it up at the end, and then you have the bookend for the ending, which is what you want. But you don't need to keep cutting back to it. The other editing craziness is like all those weird Star Wars wipes and fades.
Yeah.
And you
You could tell that was like, there was stuff that you're like, you can tell he's trying to do a throwback type of thing.
Yeah. But it doesn't look good. And then there's like a lot of crossfades mid-action just to advance a scene. There's a lot of slow motion for no reason.
Yeah.
Which also
Do you think
makes
maybe
an
they
action
got the
scene
first
boring.
version of iMovie?
maybe.
I think
Because
they,
Final
I'm
cut.
sure those are like
Final
literally
Cut
all
2 or
of,
something.
like all of the fucking transitions. It's,
Yeah.
gotta use them
feel
all,
like-
guys.
I just feel like they had a concept and just the performances, no one was on board with the concept except for Carpenter and the people he could directly influence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I went even a little further, though. I looked into the editor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He has 3 editing films that he's done.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first film he edited, then some indie thing, and then an episode of a TV show. Everything else he was the assistant editor on. He got his start actually as the assistant editor on Child's Play 2 and 3.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then he also worked on like Body Bags, Mouth of Madness, Village of the Damned. So he worked with Carpenter in the past, and then I guess Carpenter just put him in charge of editing. But like being an assistant editor and an editor can be 2 completely different jobs.
Okay.
Like an assistant editor it depends on, your level of responsibility, but like an assistant editor mostly just collects and marks all the clips for the editor.
Okay. So you're not doing the heavy lifting typically.
Right. You're not usually doing the heavy lifting. You're just kind of finding like you're marking like this is the best clip. This might be the second best clip. You kind of look at this, put it together.
You are creating the mise en place, if you will,
more or less
for the editor.
Yeah. You're basically a sous chef in a way.
That's interesting. I didn't. That's great insight. I would never have known that. Yeah, he didn't. He was not up for the task, obviously.
No. And then obviously not, because after that he never worked as an editor again.
Yeah.
He still works like as an assistant editor on a handful of TV shows.
Interesting.
But like nobody, I wouldn't. Nobody trusts this guy to edit their film.
Yeah. You just didn't care about any of the characters in this movie at all. Like the only one that I even cared about a little bit, and it's 100% just goodwill from me loving her from other movies, is Pam Grier's character. When she died early on, that was the only one that was even mildly effective, because it was kind of a good practical effect with her head on a pike kind of thing. Yeah. But it was also like, oh, I kind of wanted more Pam Grier. So I kind of mourned her loss because I wanted to see her a little bit more. But otherwise, you didn't care about anyone at all. Overall, and this is my summation, I am not going to vote for this movie. This is going to be the first time somebody does not vote for their own movie. Obviously, I didn't pick this movie, so I don't feel too bad about that. But if they would have leaned into the silliness of the premise and just took some bigger swings and had more thumb chopping off type of scenes, right? This could have been the type of flick that has a huge cult following or was poised to have a huge cult following. But it feels like they got caught up in that, late 90s, like I said, kind of everyone needs to take themselves super seriously, Matrix-ish type of mentality, which you described well. And just like no one is earnest enough to pull off the absurd confidence of a Snake Plissken in this movie. Right. Like it's like I said, it's just too late 90s jaded, snarky type of mentality that everyone has. But it just doesn't play well, for an otherwise film that they should have leaned into the absurdity a little bit more. Like they're just too cool for school.
You could literally remake this movie today though. And it would be everything that you want, because Jason Statham and Ice Cube have that backing. Natasha Henstridge, she can do whatever because, like, I don't know, it's her shot back. Like you can reinvigorate her the way Pulp Fiction did for John Travolta.
It was supposed to be a throwback thing. I just think maybe it was a little bit too soon to throw back to that stuff. Because the next generation hadn't really caught on to the things. Like in 2001, I think when this movie came out, I was 15 or 16 years old. I wasn't watching Predator with the level. Like I watched Predator when it first came out. Like when I was younger, I loved that stuff. But like I wasn't nostalgic for that stuff yet. You know what I mean? It almost was like it was like 10 years too early. But like if they would have leaned in more heavily and made it sillier and made it I'm not saying like go all the way to like Mars Attacks level, but like if they would have leaned into that type of stuff more, it would have been so much better. And I think Carpenter kind of wanted to a certain extent, but he just forgot to send out the memo, to the performers kind of thing. So
Yep.
That's Ghost of Mars, guys. We freaking watched it. We tolerated it. I didn't hate every second of it.
Mm.
I hated the movie, but
Not
like the
every
experience, the experience wasn't
Yeah, like I told
as
you guys,
painful as other movies I've watched. But
yeah, like I told you guys, as soon as it stopped and got to cut to the credits, I just like audibly just started laughing. I don't know why. It's just something part of the ending. I was just like, I can't believe I just watched that too. There was like a little bit of that.
You can't believe you sat through all that to have Ice Cube wink at you.
that honestly, that's the thing. Is like
Don't totally mind that.
It was like a poorly made, poorly constructed sandwich that someone handed to you, and you were like, oh, "This is questionable." But
it's a sandwich that actually falls apart in your hand, pretty much.
Well, I was gonna say, instead of a pickle on a toothpick, they put in the end, they put a dog turd right on top, and just said, "Here you go."
That's yours.
And you were like, I didn't like this and was not excited about it, but now that you put a dog turd on it the second before I went to eat it, now fuck this sandwich. Like that is how that was the last 2 minutes of this movie. So, well, fuck it. Before we jump into who's going next, Meg's going next.
Meg's going next,
right? Do you guys want to take a little breaky break real quick, and then we'll jump into movie number 2?
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back, guys. With the Village of the Damned. Alrighty, hope you enjoyed part 1 of our John Carpenter Roulette Showdown for the spookiest and ookiest month of October. Go ahead and click on over to part 2. Whenever you're ready, you can catch the rest of that episode and find out whose film reigns supreme, who is take home that sumbitch and strap. Real quick, before we do that, especially if you're new to the show, please go ahead and check us out over on the social medias if you feel so inclined. We do a lot of fun stuff over there. You can help us vote on topics, suggest topics for episodes, both showdowns and minisodes for that matter, anytime by DMing us or emailing us or anything. We are at Halloween is Forever on Instagram, at Hallow Forever on Twitter, Halloween is Forever podcast on Facebook. We are at it's at Halloween is Forever Pod on the old TikToks, which is brand new. So go follow us on the TikToks. I don't know if you have a TikTok. I don't, but go check it out. It's fun. Meg does that. She is 30, 40 years younger than us. And of course, as always, at Halloween is Forever Pod on Gmail if you like to send old-fashioned spooky emails. Bye.